Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
We're moving into 2021 and it is all about the stars.
Yes, yes it is.
Yes, we're going to learn all about the stars and how to line ourselves up for prosperity, right? Success.
That's right.
Abundance.
Absolutely.
And all the great things we want in our lives. Today we have Mr. Lorenzo Sanford as our guest. Today, and I'm excited about Lorenzo because he's going to tell us, his topic for today is the stars in 2021, and he's going to tell us all about what we can do as individuals and as a collective body in terms of being successful this coming year and lining ourselves up with the stars. Lorenzo Sanford has been communicating with the stars for over 35 years. Woo-hoo. For him, listening to messages from the planets is like listening to beautiful music. In fact, like many Renaissance men of the past, Lorenzo studies the music of the spheres through astrology in tandem with his work as an accomplished musician. I want y'all to know that Lorenzo also plays the drums. Both astrology and music are languages which measure and interpret unseen but profoundly felt frequencies. Just as he does with music, Lorenzo is able to translate the planetary language and create astrologic from their vibrational energy. Hi, Lorenzo. Good morning.
Dr. Houston, man, you read that like a champ.
That's what I do is read.
my goodness, you need to be on the network news. You read that, didn't you? You read that.
So how you doing today, Lorenzo?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that you're doing. It's just so valuable, especially in this time. I think that, one of the most important things for us as a people is to build bridges, and the work you're doing in that regard is just right on time. And I know how capable you are, and I know you have some ambitious goals, and I know you're going to achieve them because it's the right time for this. So congratulations on the work you're doing, and thank you for including me.
Well, thank you so much for those compliments. I am really excited about having you. When I was doing my morning exercise yesterday, most of the time when I do my walks, I listen to different meditations or different spiritual interpretations on the internet. And yesterday I was listening to someone talk about some big event that's happening where the two planets are lining up and blah, blah, blah. And so I thought of you because I was like, okay, I need to know what this means without me doing a lot of research. So I thought about you. And then when I called you, you said you had something already up, and I got to listen to it, and so on the YouTube. So I'm really excited about having you. And then I saw, like I said, told you, we have 2021 is right around the corner, and like a lot of people want to know what's up with the stars and how they can line themselves up. So I'm so happy that you came today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That means so much to me to be a part of this. So the hype is around two planets, Jupiter and Saturn.
Okay, now before you get into Jupiter and Saturn, let tell our audience about you first. So
Okay.
So and then you can tell us all about Jupiter and Saturn and what's going on in the next few days or the next few hundred years. But Tell our audience who Lorenzo Sanford is, and the greatness that you are currently.
Well, thank you. That's very generous of you. I'm aligned with the lineage of people who have studied stars for thousands of years. And specifically, scripture tells us that in the ancient tradition of what became Christianity, there were three powerful men. They call them wise men. They call them kings. We don't know exactly what they were. But they were the people who used the stars to find the birth of Christ. And we haven't been told a lot about them, but we know three things. We know that they traveled a long distance. We know that they were wise. And we know that they followed a star. And the same stars that are in the sky today are the same stars that were in the sky 2,000 years ago. And I'm in that lineage of people who follow the stars for guidance and wisdom and revelation.
So how did you get into the stars? What was your progression, like evolution?
It started when I was a teenager. I was 16. My mother was getting an astrology reading from this mysterious old lady who lived on the beach in a cottage in Laguna Beach, California. And she took me with her, and she allowed me to get a reading too. And this mysterious old lady with these eyes that gazed into you and peered into you, she read my chart and told me some fascinating things that kind of shocked me. And I was just astonished that she could say some of the things that she said. And in my wonder of it, I just started to search and try to understand how could someone look at a chart and then tell you the type of things that she said to me. And so I started searching and never stopped. And I've been on this path ever since.
So let me ask you this, just for people who are curious about readings. When you get a reading from someone, what are you supposed to do with that information? Are they telling you about your past? Are they telling you about your future? And then how do you take that information and use it to your benefit?
The answer is yes. Astrology can do all of that. It can talk about your past, your future, and actively help you understand who you are in the present so that you can be all of who you are meant to be and not be like anyone else. It gives you keys to unlock your unique and individual self so that you're not at all concerned with what other people are doing because you're doing you. And it confirms who you are if you know, and if you don't know who you are, it unlocks the door for you it's the key to unlock the door for you to know what you are here for, who you are at your core, and what you are actually here for.
So when people get their readings and they get these interpretations of their lives, what are we supposed to do with those readings?
Well, ideally, you align yourself with the kind of work and the kind of activities and the kind of relationships that reflect what you're supposed to be here for, what you're supposed to be doing. So if your chart says that you're an artist and you're in business, then you, at the very least, need to combine working some kind of work with art. If that's what you're called for, if you are a business mind or a technology mind and you're calling yourself an artist, then you at least want to include art in your technology and not ignore the parts of you that are shining and coming across so strongly in your chart.
So you're saying your chart pretty much puts you in alignment with your purpose.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And so I guess the thing that needs to be clear is that when you take your first breath, you become separate from your mother. And when you breathe that first breath, you are imprinted with a software system from the universe via the planets. The planets give energy, and when you're born in a certain place in a certain time, you take on the energy of that time. So your whole life is imprinted with that, as I'm calling it software, but it's energy and it's wiring. It's how you're wired. And so your life unfolds according to the way you're wired. And if you're in line with it, then you're becoming the fullest expression of really the universe speaking through you.
Correct. And all of us want to be our fullest expression of ourselves. We want to be our authentic selves and our best self.
Exactly.
So tell us about, is it Jupiter and Saturn?
Jupiter and Saturn.
And so you've got to tell us how we can align ourselves for 2021 and what's going on with Jupiter and Saturn and all this chatter on the internet and around the world, people who are reading the stars. Tell us all about it.
All right. Well, I have to warn you, I'm kind of radical in my approach. I'm not for all the hype that people are.
Oh no, we want the hype, man. Come on. Give us the hype version.
Although I'm not for the hype, I do have a radical expression of it.
Okay.
So,
tell us what it is first, and then give us your interpretation of it.
Well, Jupiter and Saturn are two of the most important planets in our solar system, and they represent two important areas of our psychological dimension. So one is Jupiter, and it has to do with everything that's expansive in our lives, everything that gives us purpose, everything that gives us meaning, hope for the future. And as such, it's a way to find happiness, because when you're aligned with what makes you grow and what makes you feel good and what allows you to share your gifts, then you feel a certain happiness. Mm-hmm. Saturn is the opposite principle. It's the principle of structure and oftentimes contraction and the need to focus and be diligent and disciplined. And so the two planets they have come together in the sign of Aquarius, and it's a new emergence of these two planets coming together for the first time in a long time. And so the hype is that because they're coming together for the first time in a long time, they're supposed to be, according to the internet, all these miraculous things that are happening. But I'm trying to pull people back from all the hype and give them specific information about how to utilize it so that we can all benefit from it and grow from it.
So tell us your interpretation. What are you? Okay, no. Let's juxtapose it. What are the wide majority of people interpreting about the lineup of Jupiter and Saturn, and then what is your interpretation? Well,
I'm not against anybody. I just want to say that it's just that, when you talk about something and you say it's like there's this whole hype about we're entering the age of Aquarius, and no one really knows what that is or when that age actually begins. And then along with that whole we're entering the age of Aquarius hype, there's this inflated idea that suddenly the world is going to become more harmonious and more. It's sort of like the perfect example is when Obama was elected president. Oh my God, everybody thought racism is over. We're in a post-racist society. And then look what happened. You had Ferguson, you had Eric Garner, you had Tamir Rice, you had all these explosions that showed us that we weren't in a post anything. We were still right where we were in the world when January of 2009 began. Mm-hmm. And so similarly, all the hype around we're in a new millennial expression is just premature. And so I just like to bring people back into an awareness of it's a part of a cycle, and it's a cycle that repeats. And specifically, Jupiter and Saturn come together in a sign every 20 years. So there are important cycles that this is a part of. And I get the hype. Part of the hype is that this is the first time that these two planets come together in the air element. And it begins another cycle of 200 years of a new type of direction for the collective and our understanding. But it's not nirvana. It's not, we haven't reached heaven. We haven't reached the vaunted age of Aquarius yet. Or at least a lot of us haven't. You know, there's 70 million people who voted to pull back, right?
Right. You're right.
That's a lot of people. A lot of people want to go back to the way it was in the 50s. So
yep.
we all aren't there, obviously.
Or even before then.
Yeah, right.
You know, so
right. So we all aren't there. But what it does to focus on the positive, what it does offer us is the opportunity. And this is where my message gets radical. Aquarius is the sign of brotherhood, people working together. And so specifically Jupiter in Aquarius gives us the opportunity to honestly, authentically build coalitions with like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And once we build those coalitions, then we can expand them to work with other organizations, other groups. And the key thing is to do it across both tribes and across borders. And this is the great promise of this new Jupiter and Aquarius energy. If you really are honest and living in accordance with this energy, then you can find ways to connect with people who are doing progressive things in the world. And again, my radical message is don't limit yourself to your community, your state, or your country. Find like-minded people across borders, across international borders. It doesn't matter anymore where someone lives. If your ideas connect, the world is a smaller place now because of technology. So connect with the people who are doing the work that matters to you and spread that work as far and as wide as you can. That's the promise of Jupiter in Aquarius. And Saturn in Aquarius tells us that if we're not careful, authority figures will try to make us believe that we are still separate tribes and that we should be warring and we should be disparaging each other. But that is a false trap. So Saturn says, be really strong-minded about what you're doing and who you're aligning with, and don't let yourself be tricked or fooled into believing that you should separate yourself into these groups that are against others. It's not about being against anybody. It's about finding the like-minded people and create possibilities and expansion through those vehicles.
I like your little radical interpretation of
my little radical. Okay.
Because I would hope that it's not so radical, that we're entering a time when we can build relationships beyond borders and among different tribes. One of my themes that I try to live by is, and I have a workshop named after, it's called Sin Fronteras, which in Spanish means without borders.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I think I like your interpretation. I really like your interpretation. And I think that we need to put that message out for 2021, that we need to connect with our tribe that is like-minded people, and that these like-minded people don't necessarily have to be in our tribe as we normally define tribes, which is by, race, by various associations that we can work with various groups. As you can see with just the election, what has happened with the election, a lot of different groups came together for a common cause that normally would not, even within the African American community. When you look at the Divine Nine and what they did for the election, and sometimes it's friction, not always, but sometimes it's friction between those groups. And go ahead.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And this is hopefully a beginning of something that's going to expand. The reason why it's radical, though, is because still too many people don't understand the value of it.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I'm not saying anything new in the sense that Muhammad Ali said, in the 60s, I'm not going to go over there into some other country and do your bidding when you haven't treated me right over here.
Yeah.
And so if we align ourselves with this understanding that really this is where it gets radical. If you think that American nationalism is the end all, the be all to end all, you're not really open to the realities of what the world is becoming.
Yep.
So there are people doing great things all over the world, and if you see yourself limited to just being an American, then you're closing your mind. And Jupiter in Aquarius is saying, no, look at the technology. Look at how small the world is. Look at how many more possibilities there are for you if you expand your awareness and connect with people. And Saturn is, as I said, saying, let's build something together. Let's not close ourselves off and become isolationists. Let's build something together with people who have our shared values and still expand and know that the world is big enough for us to share.
Exactly. We live in a global society and a global community, and we need to act like global citizens.
And unfortunately, though, people, business is expanding all around the world, but then business leaders want to make you believe that you should focus, and business leaders and government leaders want to make you believe that they give lip service to the globalization, but then they want to focus your mind back on, but be American, be whatever your tribe is that you think that, it's identity politics as opposed to the politics of like-minded souls and people working together for great common cause.
Yeah, we know that division is a means of control, and if you can keep people divided, you can pretty much keep people controlled.
Right.
To your point. So tell us about, now that we know a little bit about Jupiter and Saturn lining up, give us a little reading, man. We need to see your skills. What's up with 2021? Tell us what we need to be doing. We're entering in, so give us a reading on what do you do? Do you do tarot cards or do you do stars?
No, I draw a chart using a computer program, and I look at the specific place and time for an individual and look at their lives and tell them how they can take what they have and use it to grow into what they can ultimately say is their best expression of themselves.
Well, go ahead.
And so you can do that for individuals and you can do that for collectives.
Okay. Well, I'm a little nervous. I would say do one for me, but I don't want you to do it on here. So let's do something collective. Okay, do you have to do some meditations, or can you do it now?
No. It's very easy.
Okay. So let's do it for the collective body.
Okay. So the biggest energy for this year, for the collective, is both the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, but that is a beginning.
Okay.
And that's another reason why I'm pulling people back from the hype, because it's where this like, for example, this coalition that demonstrated itself in the election is a beginning. We still haven't perfected this coalition, and there still are a lot of tensions and divisions, and they may continue. There may always be tensions and divisions, but it's just the beginning. The proof of that, obviously, is that, again, 80 million people came together, but 70 to 75 million were like trying to pull back. So the coalition is still fragile, and it's just beginning. So the Jupiter and Saturn coming together is opening people's minds to the possibilities of coming together and building structures.
Okay.
So that is the overall picture. There is the possibility of building structures that unite progressive-minded people for a common cause. The possibilities. The actual realities for 2021 are that there's going to be a lot of tension between the people who are pushing forward and the people who are holding back. So this whole year is not about some leap that we're all about to make, because there's great tension, and we have to learn how to navigate that tension, and we have to learn how to use it and not let it use us. So where you can move forward, where you can advance your causes, you have to find a way to do that and understand that it is not going to be easy, because there's going to be all kinds of forces trying to deliberately pull you back. And so one of the biggest things that I'm an advocate for is, especially for people of color, to use the latest technologies and to grow in your understanding of these technologies, especially digital technologies. Zoom is changing the world, and telecommunications is changing the world. We need to, teach these kids more about coding. We need to make sure that some kids are thinking about building media empires, building communications hubs, doing everything that they can in digital communication to shrink the world that we live in, to shrink your personal world so that you can talk to people all over and work with people and create economic opportunities with people all over, but shrink every aspect of your world through communication so it's easier to reach people. Because when we reach people and connect with people, then they can't divide us and separate us. And it truly increases the power of the many versus the power of the few. And that's a big task, because the power of the few is great. So we have to use the technologies that are available to us, and we have to share them, and we have to spread it, and we have to know that it's a beginning so that we're not feeling defeated when we only get, relatively small gains compared to the power that the few have. I love what former President Obama said in his latest book, his memoir. And the criticism is that he didn't do enough. And he's like, but we're in a relay race, and the baton was passed to me, and I ran my portion of the race as fast and as strongly as I could. And then I passed the baton on. And so we have to collectively grab that baton and be realistic about the fact that it is a relay race. We're going to get only so far, but let's push forward and as fast as we can, realizing that we have to pass it on. Is that?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people, when we look at our leadership, we have so many critiques and criticisms about what they do. But as Vincent Hart, as Obama has stated, and as historian Vincent Harding stated, there is a river. There is like you said, a relay. Although Dr. Harding calls it a river, that we each have a role to play. and the baton is ours now. And I like your interpretation about 2021 is that we have these tools before us in terms of digital technology to shrink the world. And we have to get beyond our tribes and our borders to communicate with people all over the world and give our message to the world and bring us together in terms of whatever our purpose is, and our calling is. I really like that interpretation. And I agree with President Obama in terms of baton passing. And we know that in the African American community that each generation for the most part, has done better than the one before because each generation played their role in passing the baton. I know my father, before he passed, he said this could be the first generation that does not do that. And so what you're saying is this generation has to do it in order to make the community specifically and the nation and the world in general do better.
Yeah, and it's really tricky too because let's be honest, we as a people of color are still very tribal ourselves.
Yeah,
and
got it.
And it manifests itself in several ways. One of the most important ways and unhealthy ways is that we are not connected with our other brown brothers and sisters as I'm sorry if I'm losing my words, but our connections with our Latino brothers and sisters, our Native American or in on Canada, our First Nation people, we're not connected with them in the way that we should be. We still think in terms of us as our unique separate tribe. And not even just the Latinos and the First Nation and Native American people, but there are Asian brothers and sisters. There's a lot more that we could be doing, and it's tricky because we're still reacting to the way we've been marginalized in our country. And so we feel like we have to fight for our little piece of the pie. But really our greatest growth is to realize that it's all of our pie. And if we share it, we can really grow and gain together as opposed to grasping for little separate pieces of it. And it's tricky because we have been hurt and we have had pain and we have endured slavery. But, as I say, if we use the energy of the time that we live in, the stars, I mentioned when I began that I'm in the tradition of people who go back 2,000 years, the Magi, the kings, the wise men. But there were stars that were important in our development as African Americans. We got out of slavery from following the North Star.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so stars didn't just help us 2,000 years ago. They helped us in our relatively recent history. Took us from one place, transported us out of one reality into another beginning and paved the way for where we are today. And so we can use the energy and the information from the stars now to finally accept that though, we feel comfortable with our own, and though we have a lot of cultural heritages that we share, there are people who are very near to us that are similar enough to us for us to expand beyond our own tribal perspective and to work with them, to build with them, to coalesce with them. And it grows and it grows and it grows, and we expand from there if we take the risk of expanding.
When you look at that, your argument of marginalized groups coming together and seeing our commonalities, particularly people of color living in the U.S., that's in my workshop on Sin Fronteras. That's one of the things that I promote. But I would also argue that there are conscious white folks in the world that are on the same tip that want to that want to do good in the world and see they see the difference between right and wrong and want to be on the right side.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to admit I'm kind of scary, and I don't want to piss my brothers and sisters off, but but I do believe that that's true. And for me, I came from an environment. I'm from California, and I was born in California, born and raised in California in a time that was truly multicultural before the buzzword of multiculturalism began.
Agreed.
I mean, my neighbors were Chinese. My neighbors were Latinos. My neighbors were Jewish. I went to the most racially diverse school in high school in the city of Los Angeles, which is saying a lot, since Los Angeles is already one of the most diverse places in the country. So I love, and I'm, as my daughters would say, I'm low key saying that without saying it, because, like I said, it's tricky. I don't want my brothers and sisters mad at me for not wearing my ankh, even though I do have a ring that does have the ankh on it. But there, we need to learn how to expand and include all people, as you say. And thank you for giving me the prompt and allowing me to say that, because it is important to recognize that it's not just us. And that really is my message. And that's another reason why it's radical, because it challenges everybody.
Yeah, and that
everybody to come together.
I think that there are, people think it has to be either or. I think there is a need for people of color to come together to address issues of inequality and injustice in our lives, whether it be locally, nationally, or globally. But at the same time, that does not mean that we cannot work with white folks who have the same understanding, who believe in righteousness and want to do good in the world. And sometimes we think we can't do both. I can come together with people of color, and then I can come together with all people.
Yes. Preach, Dr. Houston. That's why you're Dr. Houston, baby.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
But our audience is primarily Black and brown audience. We know that. That's what this empowerment zone is for, is to put us as center of the conversation.
Yes.
But at the same time, as we have seen in the protests just this year, and the discussions this year that have happened in various communities, that people are getting beyond these tribes and saying, "Hey, let's come together to deal with these issues."
Absolutely.
Despite that 75 million, we got 80 million who want to move forward.
Absolutely.
And all of the 80 million are not people of color. They're all people in that 80 million.
I thank you for saying that, and again, my wife tells me all the time, just say the truth, don't hold it back, and it gets hard for me sometimes because I'm a Libra, so Libras want to find the balance.
It's a funny situation to speak truth. It is challenging. You want to speak truth, but you want to be politically correct.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You want to say it right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm so glad to have you, man. I can't believe we've already talked all this time. And
I know, right? It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I like this interview so much, I'm going to have to go back and listen. I need to take these stars and mine and all this advice and make sure I put it up in my 2021 agenda.
That's
and
beautiful.
Incorporate everything you said. Make sure I use that digital technology to close the gaps of people around the world.
Yeah, and I just want to invite people to understand that the astrology is about using planets as keys.
Okay.
And the keys are to unlock doors. And the doors are whatever's separating you from becoming your best fully realized self. So despite any other hype that you hear, it's valuable because it's a tool that helps you expand and grow your life. and to follow your truest purpose. And you can do it and should do it as an individual first. You start by knowing who you are, knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your purpose and your calling is. And astrology is the work of handing people the keys so that they can unlock their own doors and walk through into their greatest life. And so we can do that as individuals. And once we do it as individuals, then we're prepared mentally, emotionally, spiritually to join collectives and advance the work together.
Thank you. So can you give our audience some calls to action on what they need to do in terms of unlocking those key? How do they learn more about the stars? If they want to talk to you, what's your contact information? But just give us some direction on next steps.
Okay. So my personal contact information is my astrological website is astrologicastrology.com. Astrologicastrology.com. It's a big combination of words, but astrologicastrology.com. And so if you are wanting to have a greater sense of what your purpose is, then I can help with that. But in any case, if you don't get it from me, the main thing that individuals should be working on is really defining who they are in the world and stop following what other people are doing. That's the biggest work that you can do as an individual. Stop being hypnotized by the world and tune into what your essence is, tune into your own spirit, and really have the courage to follow that and walk in that. Duke Ellington, one of the greatest musicians ever to live and composers, said, you can't be a number two somebody else. Mm-hmm. Be a number one yourself.
Yep.
And so, and another musician I love and appreciate, Sting, says, men go crazy in congregations. They only get better one by one. So the first thing you must do is heal yourself. And that's ancient too, because, on the entrance of the ancient Egyptian pyramids, it said, man, know thyself. Mm-hmm. So everything starts with that. So know yourself. And, you and I have studied a lot and done a lot of work over the years. And so we may be thought leaders. We may be helping people bridge gaps. But a lot of us, and us included, but a lot of people still need to really examine what they are and to really connect with that and not get caught up in the currents of whatever trends are happening, even the trends that you and I are speaking about. Because if you join a mob or a group and you don't know who you are, then you are going to be carried away by that mob or by that group. It's impossible for you to stand out if you don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. And so it makes no sense for you to even talk about joining a group if you haven't first examined yourself. So the first precept is ancient but new. Man, know thyself. One of the greatest ways to do that is to consult a really good astrologer, of which I am one. And, it doesn't have to be that. You can get with, your counselor, your therapist, and therapy is important because we've had a lot of traumas. So let's not pretend that we don't, especially as people of color, let's not pretend we don't need therapy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So counseling, therapy, spiritual healing. It doesn't have to be just astrology, but anything that's going to tune you into yourself so that you can be a whole person before you go out and get involved with a group, before you go out and get married and mess up somebody's life.
You got to be whole.
You got to be whole, baby. You got to be whole before you mess up some more, bring some more children into the world. that don't have good sense. You know, so that's really everything, and then you build from that. But you know, I've already mentioned the other things. Once you are whole, once you are feeling centered and living in your purpose, then go out and find like-minded people. Whatever you're into, bridge that gap with other like-minded people, and then start to create something, create institutions, create structures that will outlive you, that you can pass the baton on to.
That's it.
And then expand that to beyond your community, your state, your country. Go across borders. Look internationally for people who are doing what you do. Because Lord have mercy, if these people, the 70 million had prevailed,
My God.
and if they do come back and prevail again, you're gonna need to have these international connections. Believe me, you're gonna need to have a place to go, baby. You're gonna need to have a spot that you can hit. You're gonna need to have a spot that you can hit quickly. You need to have a second passport. I'm not. You think I'm playing? You may, if these 70 million, you know, we don't know what's going to happen January 5th in Georgia. The 70 million may be climbing back. You may need to have a second passport. You may need to have a bank account somewhere else. These are practical things. I mean, it may sound like it's far-fetched, but it can't, well, let's put it like this. It cannot hurt to have a second passport.
And it cannot hurt to have friends around the world.
And it cannot hurt to have a bank account in another jurisdiction that can't be seized or controlled. This is where it gets radical, and this is where you have to be careful, because you don't want to, I'm not preaching sedition. I'm saying you don't belong to any one locality. You are a citizen of the world. You are a citizen of the universe. So act like it. That's my message. Act like you're a citizen of the world, and stop falling for the hype of you belong to one location and one tribe. Be in the one tribe that you truly are, and that's the human tribe.
I love you, Lorenzo. I love that message. I'm so glad you.
I love you, Dr. Houston.
We are starting off 2021 right, in the right mind, in the right energy, right?
I'm with you. I mean, the work you're doing is
right
just
focus, the right purpose. We got work to do in 2021.
And with people like you on the forefront, we're in good hands. I'm so thankful for you.
Well, I am thankful for you too, and I'm so happy that we had this conversation about the stars in 2021. And I'm going to have you to hang out so I can get my 5-minute reading from you after we close this out. So I know what I need to do in 2021.
Absolutely. You know, you are always welcome. You can always call me.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Then I might save it for later then, so I can get a real reading.
Yeah, absolutely.
5-minute one, because I'm very curious, and I really, really like what you had to say about this Jupiter and Saturn lineup. So thank you so much. Again, this is Lorenzo Sanford at
Astrology.com.
Thank you.
Astrologicastrology.com. It's a lot. Astrologicastrology.com. On Instagram as Astrologic Astrology.
Now what? Oh, okay. Yeah.
So my website is astrologicastrology.com, but I'm also on Instagram as Astrologic Astrology.
So y'all
hey, I make a deal with you. I'll give you a reading if you get your great world-renowned husband to give me a drum lesson. I've been trying to get him to teach me how to play drums forever. He won't teach me. He knows that if he gives me a lesson, I might steal some of his work.
No, he play drums. You don't need no lesson from Terry.
He knows if he gives me a lesson, I might get some of those gigs. I might not be sitting here doing astrology. I might be traveling the world like him. I want to be like him. Get your husband, give me a lesson. I'll give you a reading. I don't want to be sitting here doing this. I want to be on the road. I want to be traveling, talking to people, sitting at the bar.
Well, it's great having you today. I love this discussion. You have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I love you and appreciate you.
Love you too. Hi, we have Lorenzo Sanford here today, and he's going to give us a strategy for college success. Hi, Lorenzo. How are you today?
Hey, how are you, Dr. Houston?
So tell my audience, what college did you attend? What was your major? And then give us that strategy for college success.
I am a proud alumnus of the one and only Morehouse College.
The house.
The house where great leaders are shaped.
Uh-oh.
Where our greatest alumna is Martin Luther King Jr., and we have other great alumna like Maynard Jackson.
Yes, the great Honorable Maynard Jackson. I worked for him his last term in office as mayor of Atlanta. Who else do y'all have that you can name off?
Oh, Lord have mercy. It's better to say who we don't have.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry for the rest of y'all who didn't get a chance to come to Morehouse. No, it's I'm playing, I'm having fun, but
I'm glad you're having fun.
But we have to understand that, like you obviously understand, Dr. Houston, that you can never learn too much. Mm-hmm. So the main thing is find what you love.
Okay.
And dig as deeply as you can in that. Don't follow what anybody else is telling you to do. And I'm going to say something radical. Don't even listen to your parents if they want something for you that you don't want for yourself. Mm-hmm. Do what you want to do. Do what moves you. Mm-hmm. Because if you are always involved with what moves you, you're always going to be motivated to keep going. There's going to be plenty of things that are going to try to, plenty of circumstances that are going to attempt to thwart you and keep you back and to discourage you and dissuade you. But if you're doing what you love, you will never be dissuaded. There will always be a spark that will push you forward, even in the darkest and most challenging of times.
That is great advice. Find your passion to do what you love to do. And if that means that you need not to listen to your parents, now this is the only time we're going to tell you not to listen to your parents.
Only time, but it's important.
But you need to be able to really embrace the type of major that empowers you and not live someone else's life, so that you can enter into a career that you truly love and you're truly inspired by.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that great advice, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Dr. Houston. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.
If you enjoyed my podcast, please subscribe. We are on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts too. Thank you for your continued support.